Hello, hello, hello. I am Axel Cannon, and this is Stupid Game Experiments. So, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I may have decided to create the same game in three of the most popular game engines: Unity, Unreal, and Godot. The game I decided to make was called SH++. It was meant to be a cross between N++ and Asteroid. All of this seemed like a good idea at the time, and so I started off on the epic adventure of building SH++ three times over. Okay, to be honest, I kind of thought creating three times the workload for myself was a bad idea from the beginning, but the promise of YouTube search rankings lured me in, and I decided to go for it anyway. In truth, it wasn't completely horrible. I was hoping that the basic structure of my code would be reusable and thus save me time, but that turned out to not really be the case. The time spent trying to figure out how to get things done within the nuances of each engine vastly outweighed the time saved where I could reuse some of the code. Part of the problem here was that I was determined to figure out how to do things in the quote-unquote right way in each engine, rather than just stitch together a Frankenstein of code that would get the job done, but wouldn't really show me what each engine really had to offer. The flip side of this, though, was that I actually learned way more about all three game engines than I would have learned using any one of them alone, so I still call it a win. Now, you may have noticed my recurring use of the past tense here, and started to suspect that this is a video announcing my abandonment of the project. Well, a little bit yes, but mostly no. While I've been a little distracted the last 2 months, I would be coming back to the project right now, except for one glaring problem that actually has nothing to do with developing it in all three game engines. The problem is that I'm thoroughly convinced the entire game looks like garbage. The core motivating inspiration for this game was the design aesthetic of N++. I have no artistic ability whatsoever, but the simple appearance of N++ seemed like something that would be within even my very limited abilities. However, while N++ simple aesthetic looks clean, with high contrast colors and sharp edges, my attempt to recreate it had blurry edges and bland coloring. I experimented with several things to try and fix this. I tried different color palettes, I tried different size images, I even tried using meshes, which are more like vector graphics and allow for consistent scaling. None of it produced a look that I liked for the game. I ultimately decided that it was a combination of wanting a little too much detail in the objects of my game, while being too zoomed out to maintain that detail in a visually appealing way. I still like the game design of SH++, and I still want to make that game. However, I decided I'd probably have to go with a 2.5D game that used 3D graphics and a perspective camera while maintaining gameplay on a 2D field. This is fine, but my original goal was to create a 2D game in all three game engines, and I still wanted to do that as well. So I was kind of stuck on where to go next. My solution finally just came to me randomly. I'm not entirely sure where the initial inspiration came from, but something got me thinking about the game Idiot Programmer created in his devlog. I haven't actually played the game, but it looks like the goal is to try and click on the heart as it goes flying around the screen in order to try and keep the heart beating. This seemed like an interesting game mechanic to me, sort of like a game of whack-a-mole in motion. From there, my brain started trying to flesh out the gameplay with some other ideas. I wasn't really trying to achieve anything with this. It was really just a mental exercise that my brain randomly latched onto, but before I knew it, I had a rather simple game idea fleshed out. Again, this is just something I do occasionally. I get an idea stuck in my head and I try to mentally flesh it out into a game or whatever. If I like what I come up with, it goes in a notebook of ideas that I never really do anything with. However, this time it occurred to me that this would be the perfect solution to my problem. It was a simple 2D game that would be easy to make in all three game engines, so I could replace SH++ with this game and still finish the core project of making a 2D game using Unreal, Unity, and Godot. So that's what I started doing. I actually built a basic prototype in Unreal Engine in about 8 hours, and it works like this. I started with the initial game mechanic idea that I got from Idiot Programmer's video. In my case, it is this ball bouncing around the play area. The ball has 5 life, and every time you click on it, it loses 1 life. There's a cooldown, so you can't just spam clicks, but it's only a fifth of a second long. Next, I added this idea I got from a game Devlog created for a game jam. In his game, aliens spawn on the outside of the grid and then sweep across the grid to try and pick up the cows. Your job is to move the cows out of the way of the aliens. I included a similar mechanic to the cows by adding these 4 blocks that you can move around. Each block starts with 1 life. If a ball hits the block, it loses a life. If a block has 0 lives, it's destroyed, and if all your blocks are destroyed, it's game over. Next, I added a random spawner that spawns 1 of 3 objects in a random spot on the map. The first object it can spawn is another ball. The second object it can spawn is a power-up. If you move one of your blocks over the power-up, that block gains a life up to a max of 5 lives. The last object is a bomb. The bomb just sits where it's placed, but if you hit it with a block, it blows up and takes 1 life from your block. Also, both the power-ups and the bombs get destroyed if a ball hits them. I haven't implemented a point system yet, but the goal of the game is going to be to try and get the most points you can. You'll be awarded points based on how many blocks you have, and how many balls there are, and how many lives each ball has. So part of the strategy will be figuring out how many balls to leave in play with how many lives to get the most points, but not get all your blocks killed. And that's pretty much the whole game. It's simple enough that I'll be able to build it in all 3 game engines, but it's challenging enough to still make it interesting. I may add some more stuff down the line, but I want to get a completed game in all 3 engines done first. My next step is probably to refactor some of the code in the Unreal Engine version, because I don't exactly like how certain procedures are handled. Then I'll recreate it in Godot and Unity. I also need to create some better graphics for the game. Visually, I'm going for a style similar to games created by Shrook Juma and Tawid, with sharp lines and solid colors. Obviously, it won't look as good as theirs because art isn't my thing, but I do want to do some experiments with different ways to create game objects, such as sprites versus animated meshes. However, all of that will be on hold for the next 2 weeks because I've decided I'm going to give the Epic Mega Jam a try. I don't really do game jams, but I've been looking at doing this one for a couple of years. Up until now, I always had something else going on during the jam, so I wasn't able to participate. This time I just happened to have a break in my schedule, so I decided to go for it. The jam doesn't start until August 26th, but I'm spending the time up until then clearing things off my schedule and brushing up on any knowledge that I think I might need for the game jam. So that about wraps it up. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new direction of the project. Also, let me know if there are any features you want me to compare in the different game engines. This game is kind of limited in scope, so I plan on testing out some additional features such as tile maps to try and get a full picture regarding 2D development in all 3 engines. As I said, it'll be a couple weeks before I do another update on the game part of this project, but I will be doing a video on a speed test comparison for the 3 game engines that I finished up last week. That project ended up having some really shocking results, so you'll definitely want to check out that video. I'll be releasing it next week before the game jam starts. So if you haven't already, you should go down and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up button or the thumbs down button to let me know what you thought of the video. It all feeds the algorithm, so either one works for me. And that wraps up this devlog. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.